Can you really self-study for your PRINCE2 certification? Now, ask 10 different candidates online and you will get 10 different answers, right? But almost nobody actually breaks down what self-study demands from you and exactly where it can work against you. Now, I have over 16 years of project management experience working on PRINCE2 projects across multiple UK public sector organizations, and I'm also an authorized training provider for PRINCE2 with Axelos and PeopleCert. So I have watched candidates take both the routes, self-study and instructor-led, and I have seen exactly why one of them quietly fails more often than people expect. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what self-study actually requires, where it typically breaks down, and what structured instructor-led trainings adds to your exam preparation that self-study genuinely cannot replicate. And also we'll talk about how to decide which route actually fits your situation. And by the end of this video, I assure you that decision between self-study versus instructor-led for your PRINCE2 certification will be a lot of lesser guesswork. So if you're serious about getting your PRINCE2 certification done properly, make sure you subscribe to this channel, Project Mastery with Ray, because this is exactly where I break down these kind of topics for you. Let's get started. So first, let's start with what self-study for PRINCE2 actually demands from you, because this is where most candidates underestimate the huge commitment self-study brings with it. So realistically, you are looking at 4 to 6 months of consistent preparation if you are going in without any structured support, right? That's because you are building your own study plan, sourcing your own materials, and pacing yourself through the entire syllabus with nobody checking whether you have actually understood it or not. Now, self-study can genuinely work, okay? Don't get me wrong, for sure. But here is the thing. It works best for candidates who already have a solid grounding in project management and who have the self-discipline to stick to a study regime without external accountability. Also, it might wonderfully work well for candidates who are actually using PRINCE2 methodologies in their daily project management work, and probably they have got some initial training on PRINCE2 within their organizations already. However, and here is the interesting bit, if you are new to project delivery altogether, or your schedule is unpredictable in your professional life, self-study becomes a lot riskier than it appears to be first, okay? Because ultimately, PRINCE2 isn't just a memorization exam, right? The exam tests how you apply the principles, the practices, and the processes within a scenario, and that kind of applied understanding is genuinely difficult to learn via self-study. Now, before we move on, if you are weighing up whether to prepare for your PRINCE2 exam alone or with some support, it's worth knowing your options for sure, right? However, regardless of your plans to self-study or take an instructor-led program, by design, you will need to go through an authorized training provider for your exam voucher, right? So if you're confused about what is an exam voucher and how does it work, I have already made a video on this topic, so you might want to check out that video after this one. So it's worth shopping around to see what different ATOs actually offer for that price. I am an authorized training provider for PRINCE2 with Axelos and PeopleCert, and I do offer everything from free introductory guides to mock exams and full-length training courses. So by exploring my courses, you can see what genuine value for money would look like for you. All the links are in the description section of this video if you want to compare my ATO services with some other ATO services. Now moving on, let's talk about why self-study can quietly break down for a lot of candidates, and definitely it's not about the effort that they are putting in, right? It's about the quality of what you are actually studying from when you are self-studying. See, when you are preparing entirely on your own, you are often piecing together materials from wherever you can find them, right? Unofficial guides, unregistered online courses, random mock exams pulled from YouTube and Udemy. And the problem is, a lot of this content simply isn't aligned to the current updated PRINCE2 7th edition syllabus, okay? So you could spend weeks studying something that doesn't even reflect what you will be tested on. However, on the other side of the spectrum, there is also the accountability gap, right? So nobody is checking your progress, your reasoning, right? Nobody is flagging that you have misunderstood a concept or a process until you sit in a mock exam and the results surprise you. And by then, you have often lost valuable weeks, maybe even months. Because here is the thing, even if you are able to work your way through the PRINCE2 foundation module, which is sort of easy, PRINCE2 practitioner especially is quite difficult, okay? And it's heavily scenario based. It's testing whether you can apply concepts in context, okay? Not just recall them from memory. And that's genuinely difficult to self-diagnose without someone experienced reviewing how you are thinking through a question. So with all that awareness, if you do choose to self-study, at least be deliberate about the sourcing and the authenticity of your materials. As simple as that. Next, let's talk about what instructor-led or structured training actually adds to your value as a candidate, right? Because it's not about replacing self-study. It's about closing the gaps as a candidate we just talked about. So by design, every candidate has to go through an authorized training provider to get their exam voucher, right? That part isn't optional, as we have already discussed. Now, what is optional is whether you want to bundle a training package on top of that exam voucher. And here is the thing, structured training gives you materials aligned to the current syllabus. A trainer who can actually check your reasoning on scenario-based questions and a study pace that keeps you accountable, right? It's the difference between guessing whether you have understood a concept just by fluke or having someone to verify it before you actually go for the exam. However, this doesn't mean training is the only path to passing the exam, right? Let me be very clear. If you are confident, you are experienced, and you genuinely understand the risks of practicing and studying PRINCE2 alone, a voucher-only option is still a legitimate route. So think of instructor-led training less as a requirement and more as an added value for money on top of what you already have to purchase anyway, right? Which is the exam voucher. So whether you want to take it just depends on your risk appetite and how much support your preparation actually needs. Now, just for your information, if you are in doubt in terms of deciding which option works best for you, you can drop an email on this email ID and my team and I will respond back to you. Now, moving on to the final point, how do you actually decide which route fits you, right? Because at this stage, you have got everything you need to at least evaluate that decision properly. So ask yourself three things, right? First, how much PRINCE2 project management experience you already have, okay? Not any generic project management experience, PRINCE2 project management experience, okay? Secondly, how much consistent time can you realistically commit each week for your exam preparation? And thirdly, can you self-diagnose your own understanding during the preparation, or do you need someone checking your reasoning along the way, right? In fact, you can ask yourself this question that in your previous experience, have you gone through any kind of complex certification process all by yourself from start to finish? So if you are experienced, disciplined, and you have 4 to 6 months to spare, voucher only and self-study is genuinely a good choice for you. Nothing wrong with that route at all, okay? However, if your time is limited, you can't afford to spend a lot of time for the learning curve, and you are new to project delivery and you have not led any PRINCE2 projects, a structured training with an authorized training organization closes that gap quite well, right? Look, as we have said multiple times in this video, that either way you need to go through a ATO for your exam voucher regardless, okay? So here is my honest advice: shop around, do your due diligence, compare what different ATOs are actually offering for the price, okay? Don't look at just the price, also look at the overall value that they are offering as part of the price, and choose the one that gives you genuine value for money, okay? I mean, that decision matters a lot in your overall PRINCE2 certification journey. So that's it. If you have found this video helpful, please like the video, share this video with anyone you know who is preparing for PRINCE2 as well, and I'll see you again in the next video.